Right, in this video, I wanted to go over some information that I think will be helpful to you that I've been noticing throughout some of your work that you've been sending me. Number one, make sure that you work with guidelines, right? You want to make sure that you have at least 1/4 of an inch surrounding or framing your file, with the idea that no information should really travel off of that space, meaning any text. Shapes can, like my shape can run off the page, but I would not run text into that space because then it has the opportunity to be cut off when it goes to print. So it's important to always have your margins or your guidelines. Second, your running head, if you have your running head, which is almost like bringing you into the page. So you want it at the corner of the top of your page. So if you're working on the left side of a spread, right, like I am, the running head's going to be at the top left corner of the page. And my number and my magazine are going to be at the bottom left corner of the page. If I was working on the right page of a spread, the running head would be at the right top corner of the page, and my number and magazine would be at the bottom right corner of a page. So don't mix that up. I saw some of you put your running head, okay, this information, oops, I'm trying to unlock it. Bear with me here. Okay. Like, I don't know, let's move it down here. And like everything is kind of shifted. Like some of you, I noticed, maybe had some of your information lower and your running head like in the center of the page. Okay? That doesn't really make sense. You want your running head to always be roughly around the top corner of either the left or the right side of your page, depending on what side you're working with, right? And same with the page number. You want to make sure that your page number and your magazine title are at the bottom left corner. I would suggest almost like snapping it into or butting it right up against that margin, the guidelines that you have. You want to get them as close as possible. You don't want to really have them far away from that space. And if you have one on the left side, the other is going to be on the left and right, so just vice versa. Lastly, when you're working with your design in the center, make sure that you really look closely at the space, all right, that everything is the space around the image or around the page. You don't want objects to be too close to one another, right? So I wouldn't want my text, this box here, the shape that I created, to be too close to my shapes, like time to really relax, and then have a lot of space at the bottom. And you don't want this being too close to the information at the bottom of the page, like overlapping my page number and my magazine, because then it creates this awkwardness. So you want to find that nice balance of space between all of the objects on the page. In design, you want to always look at it like you're reading something visually. So when we read something like a sentence, right, there's words and then there's space between them, okay? And then there's periods at the end, right? And then there's space and then a new sentence. That space allows us to grasp the word and then move forward to the next, right? So you have find, space, the, space, six, right? If all of these words were next to each other, were right next to each other, it would look jumbled, and I'd be like, like it would turn into one word. So you want to, when you're designing, think about space because we're visually reading something as almost like the space between a word or almost like a period and a new sentence starting. You need to give your viewer enough time to comprehend what's going on to then move on to the next. So that's why I have time to relax, space. Then there's this blue frame with space around it, and then you see my information, and then you see the pictures, right? But there's space around a lot of my objects. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't overlap certain things, like I have time to relax sitting right on top of this line. So yes, at times it works. But what I don't want to see is like, and what I'm seeing in a few is like the information being like right up against the edge of like a frame like this or a box. That again creates this awkwardness. You need to let people process what's going on. I see this blue box. Now I'm going to read the information. If I have like my text box here right up against the picture and right up against this frame, it just looks really awkward. So you need to kind of find balance between the space in your image. I saw a lot of students also put their caption like right up against the edge or like overlapping like this. Now overlapping is okay if it works, but I'm seeing it in as if it's not working. You want to leave a little bit of space around that so it can be easily read. So right now, I just really want you to think about that space and making sure that things are lined up or centered the way that they should be. These are all things that graphic designers look closely at that we're going to get better at seeing as the year goes on. So I hope this is helpful.